Picture this. The most powerful man in the ancient world sits on his throne. A beautiful woman approaches, offering him pleasures that could make any man weak. But Marcus Aurelius does something that shocks everyone. He says no, not out of disrespect, but out of something far more powerful: self-respect. This single act of rejection didn't make him weak, it made him legendary. Fast forward to today. You're about to spend $200 on dinner, hoping to impress her. But what if I told you that this very act of trying to please is exactly what's making you unattractive? Schopenhauer called women masters of illusion, not because they're evil, but because they've mastered the art of creating desire. And the more you chase, the more you lose yourself. Epictetus, a former slave who became the teacher of emperors, understood this truth. We cannot control others, only our response to them. His rejection of the noble's invitations wasn't rudeness, it was wisdom. Watch what happens when you stop chasing, when you become comfortable with saying no, when you choose self-respect over her approval. Something magical occurs. You become the prize. The psychology is simple. Scarcity creates value. When you're not available to everyone, you become valuable to someone. This isn't playing games. This is playing life correctly. Successful men throughout history understood this secret. The moment you need someone's approval, you've already lost. The moment you can live without it, you've already won. But here's the twist. When you stop trying to impress, you naturally become impressive. When you stop seeking validation, you start radiating confidence. This isn't about rejecting women. It's about respecting yourself. Remember, failure to please everyone is success in pleasing yourself. And a man who pleases himself first becomes infinitely more pleasing to others. But this is just the beginning. Napoleon Bonaparte, conqueror of Europe, faced his greatest battle not on the battlefield, but in his own tent. When Josephine offered herself to him before a crucial campaign, he made a choice that would define his legend. He chose his mission over momentary pleasure. This wasn't rejection. It was redirection of his life force towards something greater. Schopenhauer called this the will to power over the will to pleasure. Fast forward to tonight. She's beautiful, available, and interested. Every fiber of your being screams yes. But what if the strongest move is to walk away? What if self-control is the ultimate aphrodisiac? Schopenhauer wrote, "Sexual desire is the root of all suffering, not because sex is evil, but because unconscious desire makes us slaves." The man who can say no to his impulses becomes master of his destiny. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, understood that true power comes from within. His morning routine included deliberate exposure to temptation, not to torture himself, but to strengthen his will. Watch the transformation. When you channel sexual energy into purpose, you don't become less attractive. You become magnetic. Women sense this controlled power, this directed energy, and it draws them like a flame. This is the paradox of sexual discipline. The less you chase it, the more it chases you. Your focused energy becomes a beacon. Your self-control becomes irresistible. But here's the crucial distinction. This isn't about suppression. It's about selection. It's not fear of women. It's respect for your own power. When you master your desires, you don't eliminate them. You elevate them. Remember, the man who can walk away from any pleasure is the man who can walk toward any purpose. But this level of self-mastery requires an even more dangerous skill. Seneca, The wealthiest man in Rome stood before Emperor Nero's most exclusive party. The invitation was a command. Refusal meant death. Yet Seneca did the unthinkable. He declined. Not out of disrespect, but out of something far more powerful. Self-respect. Seneca understood Schopenhauer's hedgehog dilemma. The closer you get to toxic people, the more you get hurt. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is create distance. Fast forward to your office party. Everyone's drinking, gossiping, compromising their values. The pressure to fit in is crushing. But what if the strongest move is to stand alone? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Associate with people who elevate you." This isn't about being antisocial. It's about being selective. The quality of your associations determines the quality of your character. While others seek validation through social media likes and party invitations, you seek validation through personal growth. This isn't loneliness, this is solitude. And solitude is where strength is forged. Watch what happens next. While others nurse hangovers and regret, you're sharp, focused, and ready. Your discipline becomes obvious. Your character becomes magnetic. This is the paradox of social rejection. The less you need their approval, the more you earn their respect. Your willingness to stand alone makes others want to stand with you. But here's the crucial lesson. You didn't compromise to gain their respect. You earned it by refusing to compromise. Your integrity became your influence. Remember, losing the approval of the wrong people is the first step to gaining the respect of the right people. But this next mistake will challenge everything you think you know about strength. Alexander the Great, conqueror of the known world, did something that shocked his generals. After his greatest victory, he wept. Not from weakness, but from a strength so profound that it terrified his enemies more than his sword ever could. Schopenhauer understood that authentic emotion, when controlled, becomes the ultimate weapon. Not the fake strength of suppression, but the real strength of conscious vulnerability. Fast forward to today. Your company is struggling. Your team is losing faith. The strong move would be to hide your concerns, project false confidence. But what if the strongest move is to show your humanity? There's a massive difference between emotional dumping and strategic vulnerability. One is weakness seeking validation. The other is strength seeking connection. Epictetus taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When you react to failure with authentic vulnerability instead of fake strength, you create something magical. Trust. Watch the transformation. His team doesn't see him as weak. They see him as real. And in a world full of fake leaders, authenticity becomes your competitive advantage. But here's the key. This isn't about being emotional. It's about being emotionally intelligent. It's not about showing weakness. It's about showing strength through vulnerability. The paradox of emotional strength. The more willing you are to show your humanity, the more others see your divinity. Your scars become your credentials. Remember, fake strength repels, but authentic strength attracts. The man who can show his wounds without bleeding on others becomes unstoppable. But this next mistake will shock you even more. Marcus Aurelius, ruler of the richest empire in history, stood before unlimited wealth and said something that changed everything. The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it. He chose wisdom over wealth and became immortal. Schopenhauer understood this paradox. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more who is poor. The emperor who needed nothing became the man who had everything. Today, you're offered a deal that could make you rich but compromise your values. Every instinct screams, take the money. But what if the strongest move is to walk away from wealth? Seneca, the richest man in Rome, practiced voluntary poverty, not because he hated wealth, but because he understood that the man who can live without luxury is the man who can never be controlled by it. This is voluntary discomfort training. By choosing less, you become more. By needing less, you fear less. By owning less, you control more. Watch what happens when you choose purpose over profit. Your authenticity becomes your brand. Your mission becomes magnetic. Customers don't just buy your product. They buy into your philosophy. The paradox of wealth rejection. The less you chase money, the more it chases you. Your indifference to wealth makes you worthy of it. Your discipline with money makes you attractive to it. But here's the secret. You didn't reject wealth. You redefined it. True wealth isn't what you own, but what you don't need to own. True success isn't what you accumulate, but what you can walk away from. Remember, the man who can live without luxury is the man who can never be enslaved by it. But this next mistake will challenge everything you believe about love. The ancient Stoics discovered something revolutionary about love. The closer you try to hold someone, the more likely they are to slip away. True love requires the courage to create space, not the fear that demands possession. Schopenhauer's hedgehog dilemma applies perfectly to love. Get too close and you hurt each other. Stay too far and you lose connection. The art is finding the perfect distance where love can breathe. Look at modern relationships. Most couples suffocate each other with constant contact, endless texting, and the need to do everything together. But what if the secret to deeper intimacy is conscious separation? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Accept the things you cannot control." In love, this means accepting that your partner is not your possession, but your companion on a parallel journey. This is the most counterintuitive truth about love. The willingness to lose someone is exactly what makes them want to stay. Your independence becomes irresistible because it's so rare. Watch what happens over time. Their relationship doesn't become distant, it becomes deeper. They don't love each other less. They love each other better. They choose each other daily, not from desperation, but from appreciation. This is the paradox of love. The more space you give, the closer you become. The less you need each other, the more you want each other. Your love becomes a choice, not a chain. Their wedding vows aren't about possession, but about partnership. They promise to love each other enough to let each other grow, to support each other's dreams, even when it means time apart. Remember, love is not about finding someone you can't live without, but finding someone you don't want to live without. There's a profound difference, but this final mistake will shake your understanding of success itself. But Socrates, the wisest man in Athens, stood before 500 citizens who voted for his death. He could have begged for their approval, compromised his teachings, or fled the city. Instead, he did something that made him immortal. He chose truth over acceptance. His final words, "The unexamined life is not worth living." Socrates understood that being hated for who you are is infinitely better than being loved for who you're not. Fast forward to today. Your authentic post gets 10 likes. Your fake motivational quote gets 10,000. The algorithm rewards conformity, punishes authenticity. But what if the strongest move is to ignore the numbers entirely? Schopenhauer wrote, "A man can be himself only so long as he is alone." In our connected world, this means being willing to stand alone in your truth, even when everyone else is running toward the lie. Watch what happens when you stop trying to be liked and start trying to be real. The shallow followers leave, but the deep connections arrive. You lose quantity, but gain quality. Months later, his smaller audience is more engaged, more loyal, more valuable. Brands approach him not for his numbers, but for his authenticity. His influence becomes influence in the truest sense. This is the ultimate paradox. The less you seek approval, the more approval you receive. But it's a different kind of approval. Deeper, more meaningful, more lasting. But here's the deeper truth. Your rejection of their approval gives others permission to reject it too. Your authenticity becomes a beacon for others trapped in the approval prison. Remember, being hated for your authenticity is a gift. It protects you from the wrong people and attracts the right ones. The man who needs no one's approval has everyone's respect. These 7 mistakes aren't really mistakes at all. They're the secret code that ancient philosophers discovered, the way to escape the matrix of modern expectations and find true freedom. Your daily practice becomes your daily freedom. Every morning, choose one mistake to practice. This week, practice saying no to someone who expects yes. Next week, practice walking away from something everyone else chases. The man who masters these 7 mistakes becomes unmasterable. He can't be controlled by women, money, society, or his own emotions. He becomes what every man was meant to be, truly free.